All right, I'm here at Eistnaflug with Perturbator, aka Mr. James Kent. How you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good.
So let's first of all talk about a little bit about your background, because it's a very big part of the narrative of your story. So tell us about the type of place that you grew up. Did you grow up in like a smaller community, or was it like a bigger city?
Okay, I've been living in Paris all my life.
Yeah.
And when I was not in Paris, I would just like go in London, because my dad is British. So I was always like a big city kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Much to my demise, I guess.
Okay.
Because I don't like it. I don't like when
No?
there's like a lot of people around me. I'm more like of a loner type of dude. So yeah, I just spend most of my time inside my home doing music.
That's very funny to me, because I think people see your style of music as a very social type of music that mostly can be enjoyed in a large group of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's like electronic, kind of like dancey music.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why. It's
Right.
just it's like the type of stuff I like to hear.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing it the way I want to hear it.
Would you say that you listen to as much music similar to the style that you make as heavy metal?
Actually, I don't listen to a lot of electronic music, to be honest. Black metal, death metal is the type of music I listen to the most.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exclusive, of course, and I don't, I listen to a lot of things, a lot of different genres of music. But electronic music is kind of like the one that I always have like a sort of like a hard time getting into it.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it's the one I make.
Right.
But I think like I just try to make the type of electronic music I would like to hear myself in a show or in a club, something like that.
Mm-hmm. So you don't really have any sort of frame when you make music. There's no real like frame of reference to other music. You're not other electronic music. It's not like this is I'm influenced by this or that. It really comes from this sort of unique place, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's a little bit of influence, of course, because you cannot make anything from scratch. But those are more like John Carpenter and the classic synthesizer movie scores, Goblin, Tangerine Dream, Vangelis.
Mm-hmm.
So some stuff like that. But I don't consider that like electronic music, as in as you would say, like a modern way. It's more like for me it's more like soundtracks and stuff like that, and synth music.
So why do you think then, because there is a metal connection with you personally, but someone listening to your music just without any reference, without any history of yourself personally, might not know that. So why do you think that your music is so appealing to heavy metal?
That's a good question, man. I think it's just the aggressivity of the tone and the dark atmosphere, soaking through the music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's mostly that, and most of the imagery is like borrowed from classic horror movies or science fiction movies and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure that most metalheads are into that sort of stuff. Like they really dig cult movies and stuff like that. So I think most of the effort comes from that.
When you put it on a show, what kind of audience comes out to the show? Is it like a mixed crowd, or?
It's always funny because it's like a mix of like just standard people, like just the type of people you see every day. It could be a fucking a lawyer or whatever, and next to that person you see like a fucking dude with like leather jacket and obituary T-shirt and stuff like that. So it's always pretty funny.
Is the guy with the leather jacket and the obituary T-shirt, is he dancing?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
They're all dancing, which is funny for me. It's funny for me, yeah.
Is isolation a big part of your creative process? Is that inspiring to you?
Yeah, of course, because it's music with a very there's a big fantasy thing going around with it, and I need to be like away from reality when I make music, because if it will not sound like as crazy if it's just like too much into reality, too much realism into my music. It would sound weird. So I always like isolate myself, watch a lot of movies, play a lot of video games, and I'm in the mood to write some stuff.
Are your individual songs, do they have meanings to you, or is it just simply, or do you come up with sort of the base of the track and then build upon it, or does each song have a theme, have a feeling to you that the listener might not clue in on?
Most of them have this sort of like feeling, like even before I start making the track, I know exactly what I want it to sound like and what I want to do with the track. I'm not sure if the listener gets it, but it's how I do it. And the other tracks, which I do, like I start with something and then I see what comes up, are more like syncopal tracks, or like bangers track. The ones that I don't put too much thought into are usually the most danceable, I guess.
So I read a lot about your upbringing and your parents and stuff like that. And your parents were the ones who introduced you to heavy metal. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what did they think when you started to create dance music? Was that surprising to them?
No, not that much, because they also introduced me to electronic music.
Okay.
They had a techno band or something, like a trance music band, when they were like my age, I guess. And they always had like a big synthesizer in the room next to mine when I was a kid. So they were, they're very open-minded musically, and they always like Slayer, Depeche Mode. It's like you always hear the weirdest shit when you're next to them. So.
Has your increased exposure introduced you to new electronic artists as well? Has it increased your awareness of electronic music, or is that about the same as it always was?
It did increase a bit my awareness about some electronic music artists, but not that much, to be honest. I just discovered 5 bands that I really enjoy. For example, Lorne, Eistnaflug, stuff like that, which I really enjoy. But the rest is it's very hard for me to get into electronic music as much as I do for metal.
Is there any resistance from the electronic music scene, because you seem to be getting a lot of attention? So do people, because you are not as into that style overall, is that something that people have disliked, or do people just simply, I guess, listen to your music and not really investigate your personality that much further in that sense?
I think people I think they just listen to music and they don't really know much about me, which is cool, I guess.
Has your exposure changed the way in which you create music in any way, because people maybe have expectations or things like this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the more people are into it, the more I, don't, I try not pull off, the same stuff over again. I try to improve myself and my albums and stuff like that. So
there's definitely a lot of I'm not going to say differences between the last 2 albums, but there's definitely a lot of different moods on the latest record than the previous one, for sure.
Yeah, I hate repeating myself.
Right.
And that's why I always like every release I try to make something a bit different, like familiar but still different, and I just don't want people to go like, oh, another Perturbator album. It's always the same thing.
So to finish off, we talked about how that you do like isolation, you do like smaller circles of people.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who I speak to out of the lineup this year, you're one of the most talked about people that I've mentioned, and as time goes on, I think you're only going to get more exposure, and you're going to have to be in front of more groups of people and larger groups of people. Is that something that you're willing to accept just based on the fact that you like to be creative, or is that something that's going to bother you over time, you think?
Good question. We'll have to see, but I'm willing to like talk to a lot of people, and I'm willing to be like talkative and be around people as much as needed, to be honest, because I mean, it's not that it bothered me to be around people. It's just that I feel more like comfortable by myself.
Yeah.
But it's always like a pleasure to talk to like other musicians or fans of my music and stuff like that. It's always a pleasure. If it grows, I mean, it's gonna. Yeah, I'll accept it, dude. I don't care.
James, thank you so much for speaking to us. Wish you the best of luck on your set this evening, and we hope to speak to you again soon.